Hello, hello. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and today we are speaking about choosing connection over conflict. Last week, we talked about how gratitude impacts the brain and actually sets us up to perceive and see a better life, to have less stress, and to feel more happy and whole on a regular basis. Yes, gratitude, something as simple as that, can have as great of an impact as all of that. And I gave you all the challenge to be delusionally grateful. And if you have yet to practice delusional gratitude yet, then start practicing it. And maybe you're driving in the morning and normally you have a little bit of road anger, but instead you're grateful that there are people who are in more of a rush than you and can get to where they need to go because you are just calm and peaceful and you let people by you and you feel good. Maybe that's your delusional gratitude. Or maybe you're in the shower and it's really hot and you're loving it and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for a hot shower. Little things. Or I don't know, maybe you start saying thank you to your mail people. There's so many different things and ways that you can be delusionally grateful. And if you have any suggestions or ways that you practice delusional gratitude, leave them in the chat for us. If you guys don't know this by now, I come into these conversations with a little bit of a loose plan, and a lot of it is based on what you tell me, the questions that I ask you, and the ways that you engage with me. So the more that is going on in the chat, the more that I can best support you. And believe me, I spend my weeks considering what is the plan that I'm going to put together for everyone next week, and a lot of it has to do with the real answers that you've given me and the real insight and the real actual guidance that you've given me during these conversations. So I really appreciate that. And I'm working on 2025's entire schedule right now. So the more that you interact with me, the more that I'm able to serve you. And if anyone knows, like, I'm a being of sacred service, I'm here to support you. And with all of that being said, I do have a fun little announcement. We, and by we, I mean me and my many magnificent personalities, have decided that we are going to be doing Motivational Monday on the Monday before Christmas. Now, we were not planning on doing that in any way, shape, or form. I had zero desire to do all of the actual execution work of the events itself because there's a lot in the back end and there's a lot in the post end, whatever. So what I decided to do is I'm going to be doing a holiday pop-up, and I'm not 100% sure what the topic is going to be. It's most likely going to be a continuation of this conversation, and there's not going to be a recording, none of that. It's just going to be us having a conversation, and it's going to be live, and then we're going to go about our holidays and we're going to go from there. I'm not going to have to process a recording. I'm not going to have to do all those things. But I still wanted the space where we could come together and have these conversations, especially during a week that might be stressful for you more than all of the other weeks throughout the year. So here's the registration link. And I want to know, drop 111 in the chat if Christmas or the holidays are really stressful for you. And drop 222 in the chat if you're chill. And that'll help us with this conversation. Okay. Yeah. Holidays are stressful. Oh my God. I guess. Did you know that you were signing up to be serenaded by me? I didn't know that I was signing up to serenade you, but it is what it is. Okay. Cute. I feel like we have a really good balance here of stress and chill, which I love. I had to learn how to chill. So a lot of our conversation, Maria, it depends on where I go. I can understand that. So, a lot of us really do experience challenge during the holidays because we are in close proximity with our families. Now, family is not inherently bad or inherently challenging. However, what we see is we have a lot of unresolved hurts from the past. And drop 333 in the chat if you have relationships in your family that absolutely have underlying unresolved challenges. So what happens is we're coming into these holidays and we are feeling the anxiety about how all of that will show up in the holidays. Because when we're operating with unresolved challenge, unresolved trauma, unresolved struggles, then that's going to be an underlying current in all of our relationships and all of our interactions because there hasn't been resolution there. And remember, We talked about avoidance in one of the first weeks of doing our Motivational Monday in Emotional Intelligence series in November. And avoidance is that feeling of avoiding the pain of the thing that you have to take care of. But instead of taking care of it, you're wasting energy zigzagging around it, where like I know that there's a problem, they know that there's a problem, but no one's talking about the problem. So there's this internal friction. Drop 444 in the chat if you feel that internal friction with your family members and if that is a part of the stress of why the holidays are a lot. Yeah. So I read this book years ago. One of my favorite topics to study is relationships. It's why I've done an emotional intelligence series. It's why we're having choosing connection over conflict conversation here because we are a social species. We are meant to be surrounded by other people and interacting with other people and having relationships. However, it can be hard when we were taught how to do trigonometry over relationship and challenge resolution tactics. I've been upset about like middle school and public high schools this week when I'm like, oh, if only we learned vulnerability growing up. If only we learned how to truly apologize. If only we learned that our relationship is more important than the problem itself, which is what we're talking about today, then I feel like we would live in a better world and people will be more fulfilled. So I am not a high school teacher. I'm not a middle school teacher, but I'll be your adult teacher and I will help you live more of a happy, fulfilled life. And that's why we have these Motivational Monday conversations. So I read this book on my journey of really looking to start to heal my relationships. I used to be a very angry, very emotionally repressed person. I don't know if anyone would have said I was very angry, but Kira just used to be emotionally repressed. And if my emotions would express themselves, like the harder ones, it would be anger instead of vulnerability, which didn't really get me anywhere good. Anger, I feel like, serves as a catalyst for deeper emotions, but if we're just operating at baseline anger, chances are we're not actually dealing with the challenge or the struggle itself. So, this is a book, A Good Apology by Molly Howes. And it's called Four Steps to Make Things Right. And it's four steps to actually apologizing and making things a little bit more graceful and easeful in your relationships. Now, the reason why it says a good apology and not I'm sorry is because the words I'm sorry don't actually hold any weight. We use it when we accidentally bump into a stranger at the grocery store. We use it when we accidentally hang up on our friend. We use it when we snap at someone, but it's just such an automatic reflex that it doesn't actually hold a lot of meaning anymore. And people think that saying I'm sorry is going to resolve conflicts, and that's not necessarily the case. So, reading this book inspired this conversation because it changed the way that I walk throughout my relationships and it changed the way that I found conflict resolution in my relationships. And drop 555 in the chat if you know that you could benefit from conflict resolution in your relationships. I didn't know I could until I read this and I was like, oh, I absolutely can. Also, take this link right now and send it to one of your coworkers and be like, join. Email it to them right now or text it to them. Let them know that Motivational Monday exists and that you're here and that it's going to be something beneficial for them. Yes, I'm challenging you right now as we're having this conversation. You're welcome. The biggest takeaway that I learned from how to give a good apology is that most of us prioritize being right over the relationship itself. So, what happens with that? And actually, I want to read you guys the quote that I wrote in our email this morning. Did you guys read the email this morning? Drop 111 in the chat. I'm curious. I wrote a quote. I really sat down and I thought about this one really hard. When we value building and maintaining healthy relationships more than we value being right, our moments of challenge with our loved ones begin to bring us closer together instead of pulling us apart. Drop 222 in the chat if you have ever experienced a challenge bringing you closer together with someone. Before my adulthood, no. I had no idea. I was not taught conflict resolution. As I've come into an adult, I've realized I just got out of a relationship last month, and we had a wonderful relationship. And whenever there were any challenges, I would tell him, it's okay. The resolution is more important than the problem. The way that we resolve things is more important than the momentary blip of time where we had a struggle. I want to know how we're going to communicate. I want to know what we're working towards. I want to know where we're going. I want to know what's important to you. That is more important to me, the way that we resolve conflict, than the actual conflict itself. And that's what I learned in A Good Apology by Molly House. Because the relationship becomes more important than being right. And this is where we start to get to prioritize our relationship and remembering why it's important. Some of us don't have relationships with some of the most significant people in our lives because we think that they're wrong and we think that we're right. So we're holding this I'm right and you're wrong over the entirety of a relationship and allowing it to cause destruction and struggle when really the relationship is the most important thing. And maybe there are some relationships that you just need to let go of fully and be like, I'm done because you don't hear me and you don't prioritize my values, and we actually can't find resolution together. And that's fine too. But what this is going to require is it's going to require vulnerability. And it's going to require you to show up very honestly with the way that you're feeling and what you're going through and your own blind spots. And what happens is when you start stating your intentions, when you get really clear on the fact that you want to have healthy relationships in your life, you start stepping into all of your relationships and in the conflict resolution, you start stating, I want us to have a healthy relationship. I know that you struggled with this. I know that I might have done some things, but at the end of the day and at the end of this conversation, I want you to know that I want us to have a healthy relationship, and that is my main priority in this conversation. Imagine if someone said that to you in resolving a conflict that maybe, honestly, there are some people walking around with conflict that they haven't resolved for years. Some people for decades. Imagine if that person that you've had a challenge with came to you that way and was like, our relationship is my priority and I desire to fix it. What can we do? And the biggest thing to realize is that none of this is personal, it's generational. So people are shutting you off. People aren't resolving conflict. People are being challenging. People are being mean. People are being critical. People are being rude. People aren't telling you that you're enough. People aren't showing you your own personal value because they were never shown it. And the reason why they were never shown it is because their parents never showed it to them. And their parents never showed it to them. And their parents never showed it to them. So when you start to realize that it's not personal, it's generational, it also gets easier because you see that people are just operating from hurts and pains that they're still carrying along from their childhood, which is true to a T. So one of the biggest problems that we start to come into is that we want to be good people. And we think that if we hurt people, we are not a good person. This is not true. I will guarantee you that you are going to hurt people in your lives. We're all walking around with our own hurts, our own traumas, our own beliefs, our own perceptions, etc., etc., etc. We're all living our own lives. And I think one of the biggest problems is that we think that we know everything about someone. So then we think that we can't hurt them because we know everything about them. And our intention was never to hurt them. But the problem is you're going to hurt people. You are naturally going to find people's edges and you're naturally going to find people's pain points. And I had someone in my life who said, he had kids. He said, boo-boos have magnets. So that's like like when you have a bruise and then all of a sudden like someone grabs your arm exactly where that bruise is and you're like, dang, ow. Same thing with your emotional bruises. Same thing with your emotional boo-boos and your traumas and your pains. People are going to poke them. So we will never know how to keep someone happy at all times. We will always touch those edges and accidentally hurt people. And this is where we start learning boundaries and borders. So it's not about being right. It's about caring more about the relationship, knowing that regardless if you meant to, you hurt someone. And it's okay because it's not the hurt that's the biggest thing, right? It's the resolution of that hurt. And when you place the intention of your relationship and where you want it to go as a priority over the incident itself, you will have faster resolution, you will have deeper and more meaningful relationships, and you will show up more fully in your relationships because you know that you have the skill set that you need to make your relationships healthier and stronger every single time that you step into them. So, the steps that Molly House says to give a good apology as we start to wrap this up, the first step is don't just do something, stand there. It's the opposite of the phrase, don't just stand there, do something. No, don't just do something, stand there. Ask someone how you hurt them, and just listen. Just listen. What happened? How was that for you? How did that I did not expect you to have that reaction, and I don't know where that came from, but I want to learn because I want to do better for you. And I want better for our relationship because my goal is to have a healthy relationship with you. So tell me. And when someone's telling you, you're just listening. You are not defending yourself. You are not invalidating them, and you are not validating why you took those actions. You are just listening. Zip it. Zip it. Turn those ears up and just listen because it is not about you. It is about the relationship. So the next step is say it and mean it. So express an actual apology of I am so sorry that I hurt you that way, and I did not know that that would be the case, and my intention isn't to hurt you, but I know at times that I will, and now I know that this is a boundary for you. I know that this is a sensitive spot for you, and I want to do better. The third step is debts, IOUs, and making things whole. So at this point, it's I want to do this for you. And when you're looking at a solution for someone, it's about the solution that makes them happy, not the one that makes the most sense to you. So having that open dialogue of how would this feel for you moving forward? What if I did this? And there is something that I say. If I have hurt someone based on my own habits and routines and the default ways that I show up in life, where it's more than just a one off, but it's actually just maybe me having a little bit of insensitivity or a lack of awareness for myself, I will tell them, I'll be like, I hear you, and I'm going to do this. And it's an ingrained habit, and I know it's going to take time, but please have patience with me. And I'm going to correct myself as soon as it happens. And it's going to be something that I don't do again in the future, but just know it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. Vulnerable, right? People, we love other people's vulnerability, but we're really afraid of expressing our own. But when we express our own vulnerability, we're opening up a doorway to allow others to do the same. So this is where we get to focus on the relationship versus the problems within the relationship. What's your intention? What do you want out of this relationship? And be vulnerable. And you will start having so many more thriving relationships. So I'm going to drop some links in the chat for all of us. That's it for our Motivational Monday. This is how we're going to choose connection over conflict, especially as we step into the holidays. And I invite you to start thinking about places where you have some struggles or some challenges with family members. I have one family member who's pretty abrasive and very opinionated and very has like a super strong personality. And when I realized that it's not personal, it's generational, and when she's saying all of those things, that's just how she is to everyone, and it actually has nothing to do with me, I just don't respond to her antics. And I'll just sit there and I'll laugh, or I'll like walk in the other room or drink some water or whatever. I'll remove myself from the situation, but I won't engage with it because it's not actually about me. And that's what happened to me last year with my cousin. And after the fact, she texted me and apologized for certain things that she had said that I didn't give a reaction to. So instead of me giving her a reaction and heightening her, I gave her no reaction, and she actually had to sit with her actions. And it wasn't anything crazy. It was literal momentary things, but usually that would annoy me during the holidays. Like, why do you have to be like that? But the actual truth is, you're just like that. And I love you, and you're my cousin, and our relationship is more important than me getting upset about you poking me. So I'm just going to take it. And I'm not going to take it personally, and I'm just going to move on. And our relationship has gotten a lot stronger and a lot healthier because of that. So, next week we are talking about the happiness hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, and how we can work on elevating those in our lives to make ourselves happier on a daily basis. Because a lot of you last week, and by a lot of you, I mean most of you last week, said that you operate from a baseline of stress versus a baseline of happiness. And that is not okay. Season 1 of Motivational Monday is coming to an end, which means that season 2 is going to be rearing up very soon. And drop 333 in the chat if you're excited for season 2. It would have made sense for me to say drop 222 in the chat, but why would I do that? I'm trying to keep you on your toes. But it's also for all of the people that you work with. And it's also for all the people that you have yet to work with. And it's also for all of the people in your life who could benefit from you being the greatest version of yourself. So invite your team members to Motivational Monday, please. Tell them that this is happening. Tell them how much you love it. Tell them about Kira's cute sun earrings today and her little leopard mug today. Whatever you think is going to excite them. And we also have our last financial well-being series call this Wednesday. Drop 444 in the chat if you have been a part of our financial well-being series. You do not have to have been on the other sessions to be a part of this one. We have all of the other sessions recorded, but they are able to be taken in individually. And I highly suggest joining us for our last session of our financial well-being. And then that means we have a new 3-part series coming next year, starting in January. And I think it might be on happiness. I was going to do habits, but honestly, I don't think that you all need more productivity. I think that you all need more satisfaction in your lives. And drop 555 in the chat if you agree with that. If you feel like satisfaction would be more important than productivity. You all are high achievers. I already know it. You already know how to do the dang thing. You already know how to put in the work. Do you know how to be happy? Do you know how to feel good in yourself? Do you know what makes you feel whole? Okay. Well, happy Motivational Monday. It's always a pleasure and a gift to be here with each of you. I hope you have the most amazing week. I will see you next week and we'll be diving into happiness. And other than that, we're focusing on delusional gratitude. It's delusional December, okay? And I also want you to think about the relationships that you have and the intentions that you have for them, and maybe places where you can start doing a little bit of healing. Okay. I trust that you're going to have an amazing week. I will see you all so soon. And other than that, enjoy your beautiful Mondays. Bye, everyone.